Hello, gamers. Welcome to the first episode of the Fallout 2D20 101 course. By the time this video series is done, you'll know how to both run a game as an overseer and play a game as a wastelander. In this video, we're going to be creating characters for the Fallout 2D20 role playing game. Here are some materials and tools I'll be referencing throughout this video. First up, the Fallout Core Rulebook from Modiphius Entertainment, the folks who created this RPG. Then we've got the Fallout Settlers Supplement Book, also from Modiphius Entertainment. We'll be referencing the Modiphius website with the URL supplied for free character sheet PDF downloads, shown here. And I'll be using the Foundry Virtual Tabletop, or VTT for short, to assist me in creating my character. With that out of the way, let's get started. On the right side of the screen, I've got the Fallout Core Rulebook PDF, which is exactly the same as the hardback book that you can purchase in stores or through the Modiphius website. And on the left side of the screen, I've got my Foundry Virtual Tabletop. Important to note here that you can create your Fallout character using either the book or a virtual tabletop, and the steps I'm going to show you are exactly the same for either medium. The difference is that the virtual tabletop will automatically calculate and or populate some things that you would otherwise have to do manually with the pencil and paper version. But you can use this video for either medium because it works exactly the same for both. Our first stop is page 430 in the core rulebook. Here you can find two different character sheets you can photocopy and print out. One is for non-robot characters, and the other is for robot characters. You can also find these same character sheets as free downloads on the Modiphius website with the URL listed at the beginning of this video. I'm going to go ahead and open a character sheet in my virtual tabletop, which has nearly identical fields as the printable character sheets, just in different locations on the sheet itself. Our next stop is here on page 50 of the core rulebook. Here we can see that there are 6 steps to creating your Fallout character. It typically takes my new Fallout players about 1 hour to create their characters, but it should be noted that about half of that time is usually spent looking up all of the options in the book. There are just so many choices about how you'd like to build your character that it's almost impossible not to start reading the book and get lost down a rabbit hole of choices and customization. Looking at step number 1, we start our character creation by choosing an origin. If you've played any of the Fallout video games before, you'll recognize just about everything in the list here. If you're coming from the Dungeons and Dragons world of gaming, Origin is basically your character class. Think rogue, cleric, wizard, fighter, etc. If you've only seen the Fallout TV show on Amazon Prime, but you're not really a gamer, that's okay too. In the TV show, the character of Lucy has a Vault Dweller origin, the Gunslinger has a Ghoul origin, and Maximus has a Brotherhood of Steel origin. Note that you can also play the game as a robot character, which has its own set of advantages and disadvantages. All of the origins start here on page 51, and the most important thing that they each come with, aside from a description, is a trait. When you find a character that you want to play, make sure you write down both the origin and the trait on your character sheet. For those of you who are veterans to the Fallout video games, you may have noticed that this list of origins is a lot shorter than what you see in the games. That's where supplements like the Settler's Guide come in. Most of the Modiphius splat books and adventures that you can purchase separately from the core rulebook have at least a few new and or unique origins available to you as a starting player in the game. For the Settler's Guide, the expanded origins begin on page 10, and continue on from there. Going back to the core rulebook, for today's video, I'm going to choose the Survivor origin on page 56. I specifically chose this origin because it's one of the more complex choices for creating a character in the game. With most origins, you pretty much get whatever single trait is listed. For instance, if I scroll down to the next page and look at the origin for Vault Dweller, you can see that I get just a single trait, Vault Kid, and it comes with its own benefits and penalties, and there's really no choice involved here. I would simply write it on my character sheet and be done. However, with Survivor, I immediately start off with some choices I need to make. I can either choose two of the traits listed in this chart, each with its own benefits and penalties, or I can pick a single trait and pick up one additional perk later on. Since we haven't discussed perks yet, I'm going to go ahead and just choose two of these traits and move on to the next step. So, first things first, on my character sheet, I will go ahead and fill in my origin as Survivor, and then I'll go ahead and drag over Educated and Gifted. And now step one is complete. Step two is located on page 5858, increasing my special attributes. The special attributes they're referring to here are on the left of the character sheets. Each letter in special stands for something in the game. If you've played any of the Fallout video games, you'll recognize these as well. If you're coming from the Dungeons and Dragons world of gaming, these are basically your dexterity, constitution, intelligence, etc. If you've only seen the Fallout TV show on Amazon Prime, or you're not really a gamer, then it's best to look at page 4242 in the core rulebook. Here you can find a detailed explanation of what special means and examples of how each attribute is used in the game. Regardless of your experience level, higher numbers are better when it comes to special attributes. By default, each of your special attributes is set at the number 5. From there, you have the option of spending an additional 5 points in any of the attributes that you want. Note that this is a 1-for-1 point buy. So, if I wanted to increase my strength from 5 to 6, then I would have 4 more points in the pool to spend on any of the other special attributes. Note that I cannot increase any of these special attributes above a maximum of 10 points. You also have the option of decreasing your default specials down to a minimum of 4. So if I wanted to decrease my strength from 5 to 4, I would add a single point to my pool of the 5 points I have available for a total of 6 to spend. Note that you cannot decrease a starting special attribute below 4 points. It might be a good idea to look back at your origins here as you're assigning specials, as some starting characters have limitations to what they can put in their own specials. For instance, the super mutant on page 5353 has the trait Forced Evolution. And in that description, it says that their default value of 5 for strength and 5 for endurance is actually increased by 2 by default for each of those. So the super mutant would start with a strength of 7 and an endurance of 7. But in that same sidebar, it says that super mutants cannot ever have an attribute of more than 6 in either their intelligence I or charisma C. So we're back to the benefits and penalties again. If all this seems overwhelming and you'd just like to put some values somewhere, the sidebar on page 5858 has a suggested set of numbers that you can put in your special attributes. They've already done all the math, and you can just put the numbers in your preferred attribute and apply any special origin conditions after that. Easy peasy. And this is what I'll be doing with my survivor. I'm going to go ahead with the balanced array of numbers and put my 6s into perception endurance, charisma, intelligence, and agility. So it looks like this on my character sheet, like so. 5, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 5. Then I'm going to go back to page 56, 5, 6, and look at those traits I chose with my origin. Looking at educated, I don't see anything about special attributes, so I'll skip that for now. But gifted down below definitely says something about my specials. It says that I can choose 2 of my special attributes and bump them up by 1 point each. For consistency, I'll go back here and increase luck and increase strength. And now I'm the most average starting character ever with all 6s. While I'm here, I'm going to copy the 6 from my luck attribute L to the luck points at the top of my character sheet. Now, normally at this point, I'd be done with assigning that luck, but remember how I chose gifted for my trait? The penalty for that is that I have 1 fewer luck point. So back on my character sheet, my luck points are actually 5 here instead of 6. And that is the end of step 2. Step 3, tag skills and skill ranks, is also on page 58, 5.8. As before, if you've played any of the Fallout video games, you'll recognize these. If you're coming from the Dungeons and Dragons world of gaming, or if you've only seen the Fallout TV show on Amazon Prime, or you're really not a gamer, then it's probably best to look at page 44 in the core rulebook. Here you can find a really nice summary table of how each skill is used in the game, followed by detailed descriptions for each skill. Like our special attributes from step 2, your skills are better with a higher number and worse with lower or 0 number. There's actually 2 parts to choosing your skills. The very first part is tagging. As we look at the character sheet here, we can see there's some check boxes under the tag column. The second part is your rank, which by default is a 0 under the rank column. Think of tagging as the 3 things your character is best at. If you think of any work of sci fi or fantasy from books to movies, I'm sure you can identify what your favorite character did exceptionally well. Go ahead and check the boxes for those 3 things on your character sheet. For my character, I'm going to go ahead and choose medicine, small guns, and repair. Because this fella has survived out in the wasteland by taking care of himself, taking care of his guns, and taking out the enemy for his entire life. I'm also going to revisit those traits I chose on page 56, 5, 6 with my origin, and I'm going to go ahead and look at educated. Based on this, I can choose 1 additional tag skill or checkbox, and I'm going to go ahead and take that one as survival because, well, it's Fallout. Survival is kind of their point, right? I don't see anything under the gifted trait related to any skills, so I think I'm done here. Now for the second part of assigning skills. Back on page 58, 5.8, the book is telling me it's time to buy ranks in my skills. These are the values to the right of the check boxes, which are currently set to all zeros on my character sheet. Just like before, a higher number is better. For each of the checked box skill tags I chose in the previous part, I'm going to go ahead and assign a rank value of 2 on my character sheet. And here, survival, a 2. Now it's time to decide how many points I can spend on these other skill ranks total. On the character sheet, find the special attribute for intelligence, denoted as the letter I. Take that value and add the number 9 to it. That's the number of points you have to distribute amongst all these skills. Like our special attributes, it costs only 1 point to increase a skill by 1. So in the case of my character, I have a value of 6 for my intelligence. If I add the default 9 to that value, it means that I have a total of 15 points to spend in any of these skills. So you might be wondering what happens if I just want to split those 15 skills among the skills that I've already tagged, like so. So now they've gone from all twos to 6, 6, 6, and 5. Or better yet, what if I want to make my survivor the shootiest shooter that ever shot in the wasteland, and I go ahead and put all 15 points into small guns for a total of 17? Well, it turns out that I can't do either of these two things because there are some limitations on which skill points can be added when. Back on page 58, we can see that a character starting at levels 1 or 2 is limited to a maximum skill value rank of 3 total. And my character is definitely a level 1 character because they're brand new. So let me go ahead and reset this to what I started out with. And let's take a look at that small guns again. I could spend one of my 15 points and increase this to a 3, but I could not go ahead and increase this to a 4 because my character level is too low. I'm only level 1. Now, hypothetically, let's see what would happen if the person who is running my Fallout game, called the Overseer, said that we're starting my character at a level 3 or above. Now I don't have that 3-point restriction, and I could keep adding skill ranks to small guns from my pool of 15 points. However, I would have to stop at rank 6 because of what the core rulebook says about skills have a maximum rank of 6, as shown here on the same page. And here's another thing to consider. Remember that super mutant way back on page 53? If I had chosen that origin instead of my survivor origin, there's an additional restriction. The forced evolution trait says that you may not have more than 4 skill ranks in any skill. So when you're going through and choosing your skills on your character sheet, I hope you can see that you'll almost always be looking back at your origin and traits because they take precedence when assigning these skill ranks. Here's a couple of more things to keep in mind with respect to your skills. While all of the skills are important in surviving the Fallout wasteland, there are some skills that are more important than others. For instance, in the Fallout games that I run, my players don't really use the pilot skill. They're free to put skill points into that field, but I make sure to let them know that it probably won't come into play. When making your character, I'd strongly advise asking your overseer which skills may be the most or least important in the game that they are running. Something else to note here, even beyond that. It's okay to leave some skill ranks completely blank or at 0 when creating your character. In the Fallout role playing game, you can always roll a skill, any one of these, even if you have no ranks at all in that skill. So if my players unexpectedly encountered a Brahmin or a vertibird or an automobile that they wanted to pilot, they could absolutely roll for it, even with no rank value. For my character that I'm making here today, I'm going to go ahead and distribute the 15 points in my pool to various skill ranks, kind of spread them out evenly. And when I'm done, I would expect to have a total number of ranks equal to 23. And that includes my 4 checked box tag skills at 2 ranks each. That's 4 times 2 would equal 8. Then I add the 15 rank points based on my intelligence, so 8 plus 15 equals 23, 2, 3. When I add all the points in the rank column, I should have exactly 23 points. And I've gone ahead and double checked that here. And that is the end of step 3. Now it's on to page 5959 in the core rulebook, choosing your first perk. If you've played any of the Fallout video games, you'll recognize a whole lot of these. If you're coming from the Dungeons and Dragons world of gaming, perks are basically feats in D&D 5e. If you've only seen the Fallout TV show on Amazon Prime or you're not really a gamer, then think of the perk as the single amazing thing about your character, almost like a superpower. Regardless of your familiarity with the Fallout RPG, it's best to look at the long list of detailed perk descriptions to find the one that is right for your character. Note that, as with skills, it may be a good idea to ask your overseer which perks will be most or least valuable in the game you're playing. Each perk will have both a rank and a requirement. Rank refers to how many times you can choose the perk during the course of your adventures with this character. If we take a look at Action Boy and Action Girl, we can see that you can only choose this perk one time, no matter how many levels your character has in the game. Other perks, like Adamantium Skeleton, are allowed up to a maximum of 3 times. Requirement is exactly what you'd expect. It's the restriction for how and when you can select the perk. For the Action Boy and Action Girl perks, there are no requirements at all. You can choose it now, at level 1, at level 5, or at level 20. It's your call. For Adamantium Skeleton, however, you must have an Endurance E in your special of 7 or higher. And this level 1 plus notation means that you can choose to take the perk at level 1 or above, or basically any level in the game, but it also denotes that you must look at the description to see at which subsequent levels you can take the perk again. In this case, the description says that each time you take this perk, the level requirement increases by 3. So if I were to take Adamantium Skeleton now at level 1, I would not be able to increase that rank and take it again until my character reached at least level 4. And then I could take another rank in Adamantium Skeleton, and after the first one, I could not take another rank until reaching at least level 7. Likewise, if I chose to initially take this perk at character level 3, I would not be able to re-choose the perk until at least level 6, and then again till at least level 9. Note that perks can have origin restrictions also. Looking at the Barbarian perk on page 6060, you can see that it's restricted to characters that are not a robot. So if you chose a Mr. Handy robot for your origin, you would not be able to choose the Barbarian perk. Finally, it's worth reiterating that different books have different perks. The Settler's Supplement, where we previously found the different origins, also has different perks, different and beyond the Fallout Core rulebook, starting on page 1818. For my character, I'm going to go ahead and choose the Action Boy perk. And that's the end of step 4 of character creation. Step 5 is located on page 7474 of the core rulebook. Now, this step is actually a collection of smaller calculations for your character sheet. My virtual tabletop does a lot of these calculations for me, So I won't be manually adjusting them here, but I'll go over them individually just in case you're using a pencil and paper sheet to create your Fallout character. Carry weight is exactly what you think it is. How much my character can hold on his person before they incur penalties to their rolls. This is 150 pounds plus the strength S attribute times 10. So for my character, that's 150 pounds base plus 6, my strength attribute, times 10. Doing the math, we get a total of 210 pounds. Note that if you choose a robot origin, your maximum carry weight is 150 pounds, regardless of how much strength that robot has. Damage resistance is calculated based on the armor, if any, that you're wearing, along with any perks or origins that may affect your resistance as well. It's basically your last line of defense after you've been hit. Note that the Fallout RPG takes into account the following types of damage: physical, energy, radiation, and poison. It also takes into account that you could be injured in the torso, either arm, or either leg. We'll go over this more in the next section and also in future videos. And because I haven't chosen any equipment yet, which we'll cover in the next section, my resistances are all blank or are all 0. The defense statistic is the opposite of damage resistance. Defense is what determines how difficult it is to hit you in the first place. These values are either a 1 or a 2, depending on your agility A attribute in special. The higher the defense value, the more difficult you are to hit. My character has an agility A value of 6, so my defense starts at 1. Initiative determines your place in the combat lineup. The higher the value, the sooner you get to take your turn in combat. This is based on your perception P and agility A attributes added together. For my character, this is 6 plus 6, or 12 total. Health points are how much damage you can take after damage resistance until you are rendered unconscious. These are equal to your endurance, E, added to your luck, L. For my character, this is also 6 plus 6, or 12 total, taking from both endurance and luck. Finally, there's the melee damage statistic. Anytime you punch or use a melee weapon, one that doesn't shoot anything, you can get a bonus to your damage from being really, really strong. As you would expect, these bonus damage values are based off your strength S attribute. My character only has a strength attribute of 6, so no melee damage bonus for me. And that is the end of step 5. Our final character building step starts on page 76, and it's all about getting some free stuff based on the origin we chose at the beginning of this video. The last step is actually split into 3 individual parts. The first part is about taking your original origin and asking, what kind of a blank am I, where blank is your origin? The best example of this is probably for the Mr. Handy robot origin. Supposing that you chose a Mr. Handy originally, you'd go over to page 77, and choose from one of the many different kinds of Mr. Handys in the game. You can be a caregiver, a nurse, a farmer, a soldier, or just the generic Mr. Handy. And based on what kind of Mr. Handy model robot you are, that's what determines your free starting equipment. For my survivor origin, I would look through the Wastelander types starting on page 79. Here I can choose from Mercenary, Raider, Settler, Trader, and Wanderer. I'll go ahead and choose Wanderer as it best describes what the character has been doing in the wasteland since they were born. There's a list of starting equipment here on page 80, and what I'm going to go ahead and do is add all of it to my character sheet, where it gives me an option of choosing one from a list. I can simply choose whichever one that I like best. So I will go ahead and choose the Drifter outfit, put that on my character sheet, and then for my melee weapon, I will go ahead and choose a pipe wrench, and I'll go ahead and put that on my character sheet. And then since I'm already looking for pipe stuff, I've got this pipe gun. They don't offer me a choice there. I simply get it by default. So I will drag that pipe gun over. And something interesting happens here after the pipe gun text. We can see that it comes with 8 plus 4 square Vault Boys rounds of 38 caliber ammunition. Whenever you see a picture of the square blue Vault Boy, it means that you need to roll some dice. In this case, it applies to the number of bullets or rounds of 38 caliber ammunition that I get for free with my new character. The 8 plus 4 notation means that I get 8 rounds as a base, and I can go ahead and roll 4 CD or combat dice, which are just 6-sided dice, to see how many more rounds of ammunition I get beyond my default 8 rounds. Now, we haven't rolled any dice throughout this whole character building process. So let's go to page 29, and take a look at how this is done. You can see there's a chart here on the left-hand side for what each of the 6 sides of a conventional die stands for in the game. In my case, the virtual tabletop takes care of all this for me, but if you happen to be manually rolling your dice and you do not have the Fallout branded dice, you can use this table to see how many damage, in quotes, results you get. That's how many extra bullets you get beyond the default of 8. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the dice roller in my virtual tabletop, and I will change this number of combat dice. You can see here on the left-hand side of my screen, it has that little same Vault Boy face, and it's a D6 roller. I'm going to go ahead and roll those. And so we can see here that we have a single Vault Boy face that has shown up. Not a great roll, but that still does count as a damage of 1. And so what I would have is 8 die of ammunition, 8 rounds of ammunition plus the additional 1 that I've just rolled for a total of 9. So I will come over here to my 38 rounds. It's not going to be in weapons. There we go. It's an ammunition. I can see my 38 rounds. I drag them over and I give myself a quantity of 9. I can choose between a dose of chems, aka drugs, of either jet or radaway. I will go ahead and choose the radaway and drag that into my character sheet under gear, consumables, and down towards the bottom here, you can see that it says I get a personal trinket. The random trinkets are over here on the right side of page 80. And I can either roll a 20-sided die to randomly choose these, or I can go ahead and just grab one either way. I will make it official and roll for it. And I can see that I have come up with pages of an unfinished story. Finally, I start out with 30 caps, caps being the unit of currency in the Fallout world, bottle caps. So I will assign that on my character sheet as well. And I am done with part 1 of our final steps. Let's take a look at the second thing I need to do to complete this character. I'll go over to page 8181 and see that there is tag skill items. There are tag skill items. It's a column on the left-hand side of the page. Remember the check boxes that we selected earlier? Well, it turns out we get bonus equipment for each of those check boxes we selected as well. So for my Wanderer Survivor character, I can take a look and see that I selected Medicine, Repair, Small Guns, and Survival as my 4 tag skills. So, just taking the first one, Medicine, it turns out that I get an additional first aid kit and a stim pack. And then I'll do this off screen. When I'm done dragging all those over to my character sheet, I do the same for Repair, Small Guns, and Survival, either choosing an option in here or grabbing everything that they list. And note again, with small guns, I'll be rolling some more randomized die to determine how much ammunition that I get on top of what I've already got, my 9 rounds of 38 ammo. I'll go ahead and do those off screen so you don't have to watch me drag stuff over. All right, I've gone ahead and selected what I need here. I filled in some more things like iguana on a stick, purified water, stim pack, first aid kit, and multi-tool. And I've also got some more ammo. I started out with 9, and I made another roll. Gave me up to 16 rounds of ammo. So I am all set with this step. Now, for the very last part of our very last step, we need to go back and fill in some information about the free equipment that we just put on our character sheet. In my virtual tabletop, my defenses will automatically be populated for the drifter outfit just as soon as I click on an icon that tells the game that I am wearing it. So we can see that before in my status tab, I have no resistances at all for energy, physical, radiation, etc. However, when I go back here and wear my drifter outfit, we can see that my status has changed. So for my both arms, both legs, and my torso, I now have 2 energy resistance and 1 physical resistance in all of those locations. If you're using a pencil and paper version of the character sheet, you can fill up this data manually, in this case by looking up the drifter outfit or any other clothing or outfit your character may be wearing on the chart on page 124, 124. Here we can see the stats for all of the clothing, including the drifter outfit listed here. In terms of damage resistance, locations, weight, etc. Taking a look back at our character sheet, we have everything that we need to start playing our Fallout 2D20 games. And that means we're done here. Congratulations, you've officially created your character for the Fallout 2D20 role playing game. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have one hell of a good day.